Chapter 8. George and Evelyn Freeman, Oregon State Cabin Home, New Year's Eve. The cabin was placed in a heavily forested cul-de-sac. It sat a few hundred feet down a long weathered asphalt driveway. The yard size provided adequate privacy, as it was in the middle of two large other cabin properties. Earlier that day, they'd signed the paperwork at the county title company, selling the cabin property Evelyn's parents had left to her, and the agreement with the buyer was that this would be their last night there, as it was their anniversary. George and Evelyn had prayed about the decision to sell, long and hard. Yet, with the current economic situation as it was, came to the logical conclusion that selling it would allow them to pay off their newly acquired homestead and alleviate them in a major financial way. Besides the property sale, it was their anniversary night, and that was a reason to celebrate the love they held for one another in all their years of marriage. The sun was beginning to set, and both Evelyn and George were a bit tired from the long drive of the past 2 days. A fire crackled in the hearth as Evelyn sat down gently in a comfortable armchair. She slipped off her shoes, and the warm air flowed upwards, taking the chill out of the bottom of her two cold feet. She could hear the pop of a cork behind her as George opened a bottle of wine at the kitchen counter. She allowed herself a moment of rest as the light of the fireplace danced across her slender, symmetrical face. She closed her eyes and focused on the pine-scented fresh air that came with being in the high Oregon pines. The breeze came through the screen of a partially opened kitchen window. Within the moment of the combination of the warm fire and the peace of the cabin took away the stress of a long 2-day drive, as she silently thought a prayer of gratitude to God for making everything work out so perfectly. She knew God had yet again worked all things together for the good of those who loved him. George's hand reached out and touched her gently on the shoulder. Opening her eyes again, she felt strangely well rested after the brief seconds alone in thanks with her Creator. He handed her a narrow glass filled with the golden color of wine. It seemed to sparkle perfectly with the gentle fire's light. Evelyn took it and flashed her husband a genuine smile. When his eyes met hers, George couldn't help but allow himself to feel the strong connection of love that he held for his wife all these years. Evelyn took good care of herself. Even as the years went by, George focused on all the elegant contours of her face that seemed to be glowing in the fiery light. Her well-manicured eyebrows and the slender shape of her jawline. Her beauty was undeniable, as her long, straight blonde hair framed her face perfectly. George had planned tonight for a while now, and as entranced with the picture-perfect image of his wife's beauty in front of him, he turned away to the Bluetooth speaker in the corner of the room, switching on the music to a low yet audible volume. The melodic sound of music filled the room with country tones. He knew Evelyn loved romantic country music and had taken time to create a special playlist for tonight. "May I have this dance?" George asked, raising one eyebrow and extending an arm out to her. Evelyn smiled again. "Well, certainly you may," she responded, and set her glass on the table next to her. Helping her out of her chair, the two embraced fondly and started to sway together as "Your Man" by Josh Turner began to play. The lyrics matched the scene entirely as the lights were low, and George had in fact been waiting for this moment all night long. The both of them really did have no other place to go. Evelyn lifted her head up to meet George's dark brown and hazel eyes. As she stared into them, her mind wandered back through time, as she reconciled all the years of memories they'd created and times they'd shared. Both great and rough, she remembered when they were both young, and when their daughter Sarah had been born. They'd stuck together through it all, growing and learning from their mistakes, through the good and the bad, The equally yoked couple had grown together and relied on God to provide and get them through. "I love you, George," she told him softly. His hand raised to gently cradle the side of her face. "I love you too, darling," he replied, and pulled her close to kiss her tenderly. The night was going absolutely without a hitch, and it seemed that it was just the two of them, together alone, swaying and dancing in the blissful solitude of the night. A while later, as the two sat across from one another at the polished mahogany bar top, they sipped at their wine glasses, smiling and content with one another, talking and imagining future plans for their new home and discussing how it could be once George's Leonardo and his own family built their home on the other half of their property. They were both glad they could help offer a solution for them to get away from the deteriorating cityscape, crime, and potential dangers. George's cell phone lit up, and a call came through. He looked, and it was their daughter Sarah on the caller ID. "Hello," George answered. "Hi, Daddy, it's me. I just wanted to let you know we're at the campsite, and everything is set up. We got here safe, and I wanted to check on you. How are you and Mom doing?" George placed his phone on the speaker setting. Evelyn was able to hear the last part of the question and responded in turn. "We got here safe too, and everything is going great. Paperwork is signed, and your dad and I are enjoying our last night at the cabin." George chimed in. "Make sure you and Naomi are aware of your surroundings. You have your Christmas gift with you, right?" The Christmas present was a small 9mm Smith & Wesson shield. He had purchased two, one to replace Evelyn's that was stolen with her purse, and an identical one so that Sarah and her mother would have the exact same pistol. "Yes, Daddy, I do, of course," Sarah said cheerfully. George had also purchased in-the-waistband holsters for them both to conceal carry. Just then other voices could be heard in the background. It sounded like a man and a woman's voice. "Who's that there with you? I thought it was just going to be you and Naomi tonight." "It's an older couple from a neighboring campsite. Their names are Bert and Honey. They're here on vacation, traveling from Canada. Also, Naomi recognized one of her neighbors a few campsites down. His name's Benjamin. He was already here talking to Bert and Honey when we showed up. I promise we're safe and being smart, so please don't worry." George knew his daughter was very intelligent and wouldn't place herself around anyone she thought was dangerous. "Okay, Sarah, make sure you trust your instincts and listen to your dad. Be aware of your surroundings. Thanks for checking in with us, baby. Have a good time," Evelyn said. They wished each other good night, and Sarah wished them both a nice evening together. They said "I love you" and George hit the end call button. He placed his cell phone back on the countertop, and Evelyn went to the drawer and retrieved a lighter to light 2 scented candles. George Strait's "Carried Away" started to play on the Bluetooth speaker. Evelyn went to turn up the volume and went back to embrace George once again as he sang in a low, tender tone. "I get carried away by the look, by the light in your eyes. Before I even realize the ride I'm on, and baby, I'm long gone." Evelyn's heart swelled with emotion while she listened to the soothing voice of her singing husband. She looked up at him, and her blue eyes glistening, and stopped his singing with a gentle kiss. Evelyn went to turn up the volume and went back to embrace George once again as he sang in a low, tender tone. "I get carried away by the look, by the light in your eyes. Before I even realize the ride I'm on, baby, I'm long gone. I get carried away, nothing matters but being with you." Evelyn's heart swelled with emotion while she listened to the soothing voice of her singing husband. She looked up at him, her blue eyes glistening, and stopped his singing with a gentle kiss. They spent the rest of the evening close to one another like two youthful lovebirds again, relishing the moment, completely and utterly in love.